In the world of law enforcement, the phrase "a few bad apples" is often used to dismiss instances of police misconduct. But what happens when those bad apples are allowed to jump from one department to another, their histories of misconduct trailing behind them, but hidden in the shadows that the public can't see? Let's explore wandering cops, officers who, despite their troubled pasts, manage to find new positions in law enforcement, often with devastating consequences for the communities they're meant to serve. At the heart of this issue lies a fundamental failure of communication between law enforcement agencies. When an officer is fired or resigns from one department due to misconduct, that information is not always shared with other agencies. This lack of transparency allows corrupt cops to slip through the cracks, finding new jobs in different jurisdictions where their histories remain unknown. It's a systemic problem that has persisted for decades, and it's one that demands our attention. But the problem doesn't stop there. Police unions, meant to protect the rights of officers, have become a double-edged sword. While they play a vital role in ensuring fair treatment for officers, they have also been accused of shielding bad cops from the consequences of their actions. Union contracts often include provisions that make it difficult to fire officers, even those with a history of misconduct. This creates a culture of unaccountability, where officers feel they can act with impunity, knowing that their unions will have their backs. The situation is further complicated by the desperate staffing needs faced by many law enforcement agencies. In the face of high turnover rates and a shrinking pool of applicants, some departments have resorted to lowering their hiring standards, prioritizing numbers over integrity. This has led to a situation where officers with questionable backgrounds are given a second chance, often without the necessary safeguards in place to ensure they don't repeat their past mistakes. One of the most glaring failures in this system is the inadequacy of background checks. When an officer applies for a new position, their previous employment history should be thoroughly vetted. However, this process is often hindered by legal and administrative barriers. Some states have laws that prohibit the sharing of certain types of personnel information, while others have cumbersome processes that make it difficult for agencies to obtain the necessary records. As a result, red flags that should have been caught in the hiring process are missed, allowing problematic officers to continue their careers unchecked. This brings us to the second chance culture that pervades much of law enforcement. The idea that everyone deserves a shot at redemption is a noble one, but when applied to the hiring of police officers, it can have disastrous consequences. An officer who has a history of excessive force complaints, for example, should not be given the same benefit of the doubt as someone with a clean record. Yet, this is precisely what happens in many cases, with departments citing the need for experienced officers as justification for overlooking past transgressions. The problem is compounded by the fact that many oversight bodies tasked with tracking bad cops are woefully underfunded and understaffed. These agencies, which are meant to serve as a check on police misconduct, often lack the resources necessary to conduct thorough investigations and maintain accurate records. As a result, officers with a history of misconduct can move from one department to another without raising any red flags, their past behavior hidden from public view. Another factor that contributes to the hiring of bad cops is the misplaced trust in personal recommendations. In many cases, officers are hired based on the word of a colleague or supervisor, without a thorough examination of their background. This type of nepotism can lead to a situation where problematic officers are given a pass simply because they have the right connections. The pressure to maintain a positive public image also plays a role in the hiring of bad cops. Police departments are often reluctant to admit to past mistakes or to be transparent about the misconduct of their officers. This can lead to a situation where internal records are hidden from public scrutiny, making it difficult for citizens to hold their police departments accountable. Despite the many efforts at reform, the problem of bad cops slipping through the cracks persists. Too often, these reforms are superficial, failing to address the root causes of the issue. They may include new training programs or changes to hiring practices, but they don't tackle the underlying cultural and systemic issues that allow misconduct to flourish. So, what can be done to address this problem? The first step is to acknowledge that it exists and that it's not just a matter of a few bad apples. We need to recognize that the current system is broken and that it requires a fundamental overhaul. One potential solution is the creation of a national database of police misconduct. This would allow agencies to share information about officers who have been fired or resigned due to misconduct, making it easier to identify problematic individuals and prevent them from being hired by other departments. However, the creation of such a database would require significant political will and a willingness to confront the powerful police unions that have long resisted such efforts. Another approach is to strengthen the background check process for police officers. This could involve expanding the types of information that are considered in the hiring process, such as social media posts and previous complaints of misconduct. It could also involve standardizing the background check process across jurisdictions to ensure that all agencies are using the same criteria to evaluate candidates. Ultimately, however, the solution to this problem will require a cultural shift within law enforcement. We need to create a culture of accountability where officers are held to the highest standards of conduct and where misconduct is not tolerated. This will require a sustained effort from police leadership, elected officials, and the broader community. It will also require a willingness to confront the difficult truths about policing in America. We must acknowledge that the current system is not working for everyone and that it disproportionately impacts communities of color. We must be willing to have honest conversations about the role of race in policing and to take concrete steps to address the systemic inequities that have long plagued our criminal justice system. Only by facing these challenges head-on can we hope to create a system of policing that truly serves and protects all members of our society. It won't be easy and it won't happen overnight, but it's a fight that we must take on for the sake of our communities and for the integrity of the law enforcement profession. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked that video, then please consider subscribing. And if you want to see more like that, then head on over to the channel where you can find more deep dives into movies, media, and culture. Thanks.